the research, a great deal of research has been done through International Occultic Studies Association based in Florida, of which we're members. And it gives us a greater, a wider, a broader understanding of how people can be influenced by a set of very incremental steps. Initially, a small commitment expected, progressing into bigger commitments of both time and usually money. I could go on, of course, but I know that the time is short for us to be here. I would just like to say that along with this, if behaviour is controlled, the studies show that our thoughts and emotions go to join up with that behaviour because of the cognitive dissonance that we get from being out of kilter. Add that to information control, which groups that are abusive will use, then we don't have the very tools we need to make informed choices, because everything outside of that is worldly, impure, satanic, evil. We've heard other words given today, but we know from our talking with people that these groups become very insular. They are the world. They are the ones that have the answers. They are elitist.
Well, Ms. Hodgkins, we might, if you don't mind, stop there and let the senators ask questions.
Yes,
because
certainly.
We've got a little bit behind time, so we'll start with Senator Cameron and ask you some general questions. So thank you for that introductory statement.
Ms. Hodgkins, I really don't want to go into a great deal of detail on cults, other than to say that, maybe ask your view on this, that there is a sociological view that some cults can be beneficial.
Of course, there are some beneficial things about being in a cult. Otherwise, no one would ever be in them for more than 5 minutes, you see, because there's a sense of belonging. There's often a sense of black and white thinking. There's often a sense that, well, now we have the answers to complicated issues, which we know exist in our society. And so we're not denying that there are beneficial aspects of cult involvement, but the benefits do not outdo the harm. The benefits that are there can be found in safe groups. They can be found in groups that do not abuse, do not take away people's freedom. And so that would be my argument, that we can't condone something because of those beneficial things that are there, those good things, that of course they're there. I believe because human beings would not stay 5 minutes.
Because some of the research that I've had my staff look at says that Christianity was considered a cult, and that there are cults within Christianity, such as the cult of the Virgin Mary. And I'm just wondering how you define that's a mainstream cult approach as distinct from what I think you're talking about, the worst aspects of some cults.
That's a good question, but I would argue that there was freedom within Christianity when it started. If we look at the basic understanding of Christ and his teachings, there was freedom that is not afforded in these groups that would claim to be Christian, that would use the Bible as their status. So I think that we have to have an understanding of why we can describe a cult or a high demand group. Cult is just a buzzword, but a high demand group or something as abusive, and that is the set of techniques that we now understand that have to be present in all of those areas, because of course some groups do use some control, but that doesn't mean to say that it's an abusive group. They can perhaps leave that group and still be part of the friendship with those people, whereas cults, when you leave, you are not allowed to talk to any of your family members that are still in that group. So there are big differences, and I think this is where, coming to understand and certainly know about these areas, it can be very helpful.
I want to now bring it back from the generalities to the specifics of the bill. in relation to the actions of cults, because you've concentrated on cults. I'm not here to defend cults, but could there be an identifiable benefit from the aims and activities of a cult? Could it be that the balance in a cult could be on the positive against any detriment or harm? And could it be that the benefit is to a significant section of the public and not merely individuals with a material connection to the cult? And I've deliberately framed that on the basis of the bill, because I think we need to talk about the bill instead of the generalities of cults in Australia.
In answer to that question, CIFS, I believe, would say categorically there could not be benefits long-term of belonging to a cult, purely because the nature we describe as a cult has all of those insidious harm factors of taking away the authentic person and cloning them into the likeness of the group in this particular way that we understand, and we perhaps explain further in that paper that we gave you. So for short term, people come in and go out. They can absolutely perhaps have a benefit of belonging, of becoming part of something for a short time. And as I said, there will be factors that people can benefit from. But to say that a cult or a destructive group, even if we call it that, or a thought reform group or a totalistic group, the words are difficult when we start throwing these around. But to describe what we understand and how we would apply the way to evaluate a group, we could categorically say there is no benefit to allowing the freedom of the taxpayers' money being given to a group because it's a cult, but it has some benefits. Does that sort of answer what you were asking?
It goes to some extent in terms of well, that leads to the next question. Who should determine that benefit or lack of benefit? Because if there is a benefit and a cult meets all of these tests, and I think that's theoretically possible, who should then determine whether tax-exempt status applies?
I think that's a very difficult question. I don't think it's an easy question, but I don't think it's an insurmountable way to get together a set of criteria and a set of areas that have to be looked at carefully and come to a conclusion that a group is truly harmful totally because of the behaviour. And I'm not talking about beliefs here, because beliefs could be about anything. And we've got freedom to believe that the moon's made of cheese if we want. We've got that freedom, but if you are claiming to be an idealistic group or a group that has answers to life, and you are using virtually the members as labour, you are using them to at the top of the pyramid will be the leaders that are benefiting most always, and the workers at different levels. There is a way to understand, and I have to say at this point that when we hear stories coming from the many different groups, they are all the same, with different components to what they were told to do. But the type of behaviour control, information control, thought and emotional control are all there in an absolute way, so that it then creates the psychological effect of coming under that influence, which we know has been studied extensively, especially in the prisoners of war in Korea, where we found out that brainwashing had the ability to change people's thinking, the way they think, the way they... So there are many, many experts.
But is your submission that this is being done with taxpayer support?
Is our submission?
Our submission is that, yes.
Yeah.
Can I address that point? Because the process of mind control and coercive persuasion has been documented heavily in books and articles.